Professor, thank you so much for making time for us. So devolution, 5 years, marking 5 years this month, March. And would like to hear from you, your experience looking back for the past 5 years. How would you describe how it has unfolded so far as a form of government?
I think devolution is God-sent. Indeed, one wishes that from independence we had started on with this system of government, because indeed in the first constitution there was regionalism, which was a form of devolution, and indeed it even had fewer regions and more resources going to the regions. The assemblies were quite powerful. But because of the need to centralize power, that system lived a very short life. And so we had to wait until the 2010 constitution for us to try devolution again. But in the 5 years that devolution has worked within our country, we have seen resources going to counties, resources that were always used at the center, and when they went to the districts, they were not deployed as well as they are deployed today. And there are very new things that are happening. First of all, having people who are working in the counties. Some counties are having major hospitals for the first time, where you can, like northeastern part of our country, where you have operations for the first time. So you have citizens feeling a connection to government.
Right.
So that government is not alien, government is not, you know, in Nairobi. Some parts of the country, they used to say when you go to Kenya, salimia watu.
Yeah.
And yet they are in Kenya.
Yes.
So I think devolution is a game changer. And one wishes that we embraced it, all the leadership and also the national level, we embraced it. So that there isn't resistance to it. There isn't a desire to re-centralize again.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, I wish the president could actually own devolution. So that
you don't think he does?
I think sometimes we have a sense of people who are around him, people who are advising him. There is still a caliber of top bureaucrats who feel that lots of resources, decision-making authority is slipping through their fingers and going to the periphery. Because a lot of the money for devolution comes from the national government, because it's the one which collects most taxes. So if I was the president of Kenya, I would just own the devolution and say that I'm, you know, supplying this money. Yeah,
but he prides himself in surpassing the target, the bottom threshold, if you like, in as far as the funding. Is it 15% to the counties? So he prides himself in having surpassed that, and we keep hearing him talking about the figures and as far as funding. So he sees himself as doing very well in supporting devolution, but you disagree?
I think there's room for a lot of activity to be done from the national level, so that devolution is embraced. For example, some of the county commissioners, they feel they're operating a separate system. They don't feel that they should work closely with the governors, because it's like if they do so, they will endorse what is happening at the county level and maybe show that the national level is not delivering a lot in the counties.
So they're caught in a dicey position, you'd say.
I think so. And of course, when you see them behaving that way, it means that there are signals they are getting from the center that they need to be careful how they embrace the governors and the county level. But I think that we also need to revisit the question of the 47 entities that we have, because sometimes the monies that come to the counties, a lot of the resources are used to pay salaries and for the current expenditure. And if we had fewer entities, then it would mean that we wouldn't pay as much money in terms of salaries and so on. And maybe if somebody was to go back to the Bombers draft, where we had, I think, 14 regions. Like in Nigeria, the regions in Nigeria.
The states.
The states, yes. The regions or provinces in South Africa. You know, there are fewer, but you can have like the 47 being another level, so that you have the 47 being one level. You can have like 14 other levels. Then you have the national government.
So you'd have us revise the current 47 counties to 14?
Yes.
You feel in terms, when we do that, then in as far as resources, would be able to manage
the resources
that better?
Because we can also, in terms of resources, you have an entity. For example, now we are making regional blocks. For example, there's one called SEKEB for the Ukambani counties, 3 of them, because we are realizing that the bigger things can't be done by a county. So you have to do those things together. Even some of the projects the national government is bringing down, like Twake Dam, like Konza. There's
collaboration required.
Precisely. Even some of the major tarmac roads. It is that entity which is not in the constitution, which we are now trying to create. And so far, there are several of those economic blocks, which tells me that it is perhaps important to look at the constitution afresh to see whether that logic can be part of the constitution.
Yeah, so downsize. But you think that is something that would be, in the near future, agreeable and embraced by the electorate?
The electorate would not easily let go the 47 counties. Because just like the districts before, you know, people really like the districts because you get recruitment of police persons.
Right.
You know, you get the people own them. So it would be difficult to convince them to let go of the 47 counties. So that would be like another tire, but then get like the economic blocks now being regions, so that there are things that you can do in a broader way, and the other things that you can do at the micro level.
Yeah.
Because of course, if it was easy to let go the 47 counties, that would be the better thing to do.
But it's not likely.
See that not being easy.
Yes. But in terms of the devolved functions, some remain with the central government in as far as service delivery, but some have been devolved. Are there functions you feel some should have perhaps remained with the central government and perhaps some with the central government now should have been devolved?
The national government focuses more on policy making. It also creates laws that will unify functions or how delivery should take place. And there are specific issues that the national government, apart from security and foreign affairs, also issues of development, particularly the bigger projects. Devolution helps you with the services that are enjoyed by the population at the grassroots, where you need immediate attention, whether it is health, whether it's agriculture, whether it is a bit of water, environment. There are those things that you can handle them better at the level where the problems are.
Yes.
Of course, there's the argument that health is complicated and health should be a national government affair. But I don't think that is so, because if you look at what has happened in the health sector in the past 5 years, for example, in Makueni, we found about 109 health facilities. Today, 5 years later, we have 232 facilities.
Right.
You can see that change. You can see drugs are going into these hospitals. You can see more staff have been employed. Of course, we have also received facilities from the national government, especially equipment for major things, which is a good thing. In terms of functions, I would not really change that much.
Security.
Although security, I could say that the counties also, because there is a policing authority,
right,
county policing authority, which has not been operationalized. I could say that even the counties can assist the national government in terms of security. We can assist the national government in terms of infrastructure in schools, especially primary and secondary. We can assist in that. There are complicated functions that we voluntarily have said that the national government can do them, like immunization, like when immunization, maybe disease control, blood transfusion. There are things that counties should do, which we concede to the national government, because the idea is, if you discover that something is easier to do at a national level, you should not hang on to it. And in like manner, if there are certain things that the national government is doing in education, for example, which can easily be, the county governments can do better. But I think it is this friendship taking place between the counties and the national, the sibling, not sibling, I don't know whether to call it sibling rivalry. There's some kind of rivalry. It's like, if the counties are doing the things that touch the citizen, then the national government feels jealous.
They want to take credit for it and politicize it.
But you can take credit for them because a lot of the money comes from the national level. So it's a question, because like the things that happen in Makueni, yes, we are helping so that they can happen, and we are working with the citizenry so that they can happen. But we cannot deny the national government a part of that success, because we get resources, a lot of resources from the national government. It is the entity that taxes. So I don't see why this success cannot be shared. I don't see why we shouldn't do what the Constitution says in terms of the functions that are accounted to be done by the county, so that there are no laws which are trying to change that. But again, one has to accept that this is part of the teething problems, because when you have a new system, before it settles, there's some jockeying and there's some contestation. So I don't see it as an entirely negative thing, because if people are used to doing...
The water will find its level.
Precisely. Because the way in which people are used to doing things, when you have a new order, people don't get into that new order usually easily. You talked about funding and the feeling that it's not enough coming from the national government, but are the counties themselves doing enough to generate income as well at the county level, or is it just sitting back and waiting and asking for more and more? But what are we seeing from the counties? Do you think that there's enough will and passion to be able to also generate wealth at that level? I think the counties are not able, by and large, to raise significant revenue because of the constitutional design, because most of the taxation is left to the national government. And the things that we collect are like parking fees, like cess, like it is more of levies rather than taxation, because of there was this idea that we should be careful about double taxation. But that doesn't mean the counties cannot try from those sources of revenue that they have to collect more. I think we should do that. We should be more, creative and do that. But I wish the Constitution had said that we should have 15% of the national budget instead of 15%, minimum 15% of the resources that are raised. Because if it was the national budget 15%, that would do miracles.
And representation-wise, with devolution, we have now other layers. There's the governor, you have the woman rep, the senator, the county representatives, the MCAs, that is. Do do we have overrepresentation? Do you get the sense with devolution that there's all of these roles? And as far as what Wananchi is getting at the end of the day, and as far as representation is concerned, some feel it's a stretch, and which of course impacts on this same money because you're talking wage bill and all. Are we getting value for money even with the representation?
I think if we have an opportunity to review the Constitution, this is an important matter to consider, whether we have too much government. Even in terms of the members of parliament, the constituencies, do we have too many? Could they be fewer? What exactly is the role of Senate? If Senate is not very robust, and it is like part of the National Assembly,
right?
There isn't a lot of difference in terms of that second chamber. Then we may want to ask, is it also a necessary chamber, or can we do everything as we used to do in National Assembly, particularly if we were to also adopt a parliamentary system or a mixture of presidential and parliamentary system.
Yes.
Even within the wards that we have, we could also ask, could we have less wards? I think the ward is becoming a very, very important institution in the country because a lot of development happens at that level. But we could ask ourselves, do we have many wards? Can we make those less so that we have even more effective assemblies? So I agree that. So
you get a sense there is of a representation.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, and I would be comfortable with a situation where that is reviewed.
And in terms of even just moving from national government, getting to the counties and the personnel and that transition period, do you have duplicity that county governments, yes, there were people that were maintained in the county governments from the structures were there before, but that also county governments came and employed their own people. So there's a sense that the wage bill is going crazy and insane and so big because of these duplicated roles.
There's that history that the first employees were those of the local authorities. They were there and they were permanent and pensionable. You couldn't dismiss them. And sometimes because of the way in which they had been employed during the local authority times, some of them were like relatives, of councillors and so on, and some may not have been very qualified.
Right.
But some were very qualified. Then you had the national government officials being deployed to the counties. And initially, they resisted a lot because they thought they had been downgraded by now being subjected to the authority of what they still believed were councillors and mayors and chairpersons of authorities, local authorities. And so that resistance, kind of continued. And when again the county is employed people, you have now three sets of people.
Right.
And one of the problems has been the gelling of their cultures and their levels. I think we need a serious audit of who works for county governments. We need a serious audit, and we need to really call people to explain what they do. So that if we realize that there are some people who are not offering services, then we would have to find a way of dealing with that issue.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, for example, when you look at Mombasa, Nairobi, Nakuru, a lot of Kisumu, a lot of their money goes into paying salaries because they found many employees there. But I think we have to ask what is it that people do, and if it is found that you are not doing much, then maybe there should be a way to compensate you.
Yes.
And you go and look for other things to do, perhaps in the private
so
sector.
that streamline that whole human resource structure.
That's an issue.
Yeah. And then another question arises around, you devolve this government, you have the county governments, but also that some of the negative practices we witnessed for a long time in government have also been devolved. Say corruption, that now we are seeing and hearing of many cases of corruption in the counties, tribalism. You know, you're having some counties, say, in regions that only people from this ethnic group will be working here. We're not going to allow outsiders. So are we also then, in a sense, losing the plot with this kind of issues emerging?
I think because we have 47 counties, previously with one national government, so when you have 47 other entities, it is easy to look at episodes that are occurring in the 47 entities and say that this means corruption is on the upsurge. But I will also accept that within county governments we have had episodes of corruption, and it is easier to detect because the people in the county are very close to the government. So when they see wrong things, they say it themselves. They're actually whistleblowers. Even people are able to come to the home of a governor and tell the mother or the father of a governor or some relatives that, you know, this is happening and we don't like it, it's bad. And therefore, we have to deal with that question so that we don't get corruption from the center to the periphery.
Yeah, although accountability has been an issue even at the county level, that when governors have been summoned, there's been a question of who can summon who, isn't it?
There's been that question. For me, I don't think it's so much of a legal issue. It is an ethical issue. So that if anybody calls me for accountability, I don't raise legal barriers. So long as it is also something that is being done in good faith. It is not like something that is politically motivated. And indeed, for example, we have a performance contract system in Makueni. We are trying to entrench that, like in the national government. But the difference is I also want to be accountable so that there is a contract between me and the citizens of Makueni. So we have to enforce those accountability mechanisms at the county level. I think that is very, very, and we should do it together with assistance of the COG, so that we have anti-corruption policies and laws, and we have a mechanism, even an intergovernmental mechanism at our levels, to look at corruption, because that is one of the things that can negate a very important experiment that Kenya is doing. When it comes to negative ethnicity, you see, there was also a question of people wanting to go and work at home, not work in some other place because you will be discriminated.
Right.
They talk their language and all that kind of stuff. And the law said that at the very minimum, 30% of your employees should be from another county.
Yes.
But it is not easy to achieve that apart from cosmopolitan counties like Nairobi, like maybe Mombasa, like Kisumu, because those who are employed by the local authorities were largely from the same ethnic group. Those who are from the national, that's where there was a mixture. But even employees at that level tended to want to go home, so to speak. But at least when the national government was employing, that is where you had the face of Kenya. Then the counties, you have largely more people from those counties than elsewhere, because people are saying, I would prefer to go home.
Yes.
If I work there, I can look after my investments, and so on and so forth. And I think that it's a very good idea to enforce this law of 30%. The minimum 30% must be from another county.
Yes.
And maybe the way to do that is to make a law which says that there can be inter-county transfers, so that the people that I have employed, some of them can go to another county, and they can also receive people from another county. So we will have that minimum of 30%.